Imagine standing inside an ancient cathedral. Thousands of people have fallen completely silent. No one is looking at their phone, no one is speaking. Every eye is fixed on a small glass vial, no bigger than the palm of your hand. Inside it, something that should be impossible. A dark, solid mass. Blood? Blood that, according to history, was collected nearly 17 centuries ago. For a few long moments, nothing happens. Then suddenly, the impossible begins. The solid mass slowly changes, its color shifts, its texture softens, and before the eyes of everyone present, the blood becomes liquid. Again, no hidden tubes, no visible heat source. No one touches the contents, yet it happens year after year, generation after generation. For nearly 2,000 years, scientists have examined it. Skeptics have challenged it. Believers have prayed before it, and despite centuries of debate, no explanation has convinced everyone. But here's the question almost nobody asks. What if the greatest mystery isn't that the blood liquefies, but why it has continued to do so for so many centuries? Because history tells us something even stranger. There were years when the blood refused to liquefy, and those years were followed by some of the darkest tragedies in the history of Naples. Coincidence? Faith? Psychology? Or something we still don't understand? Tonight, we're not asking you to believe, we're inviting you to investigate. Because once you discover the full story of Saint Januarius, you may never look at this miracle the same way again. To understand the mystery, we must travel back to a time when simply saying you believed in Christ could cost you your life. The Roman Empire was immense, powerful, unchallenged. Its emperors demanded loyalty that was almost absolute. Religion wasn't simply personal belief. It was political stability. Refusing to honor the emperor's gods wasn't viewed as private conviction. It was considered rebellion. And during one of the empire's most brutal persecutions, Christians disappeared into prisons, into arenas, into history. Among them was a bishop from Benevento. His name was Januarius, known today as Saint Gennaro, but history remembers him for far more than his death. It remembers what happened after his execution. According to ancient Christian tradition, when Januarius was condemned around the year 305, a woman named Eusebia approached his body. She carried 2 small glass ampoules. As the bishop's blood flowed after his martyrdom, she carefully collected it. 2 tiny containers. No one present could possibly imagine that these fragile vessels would become some of the most studied religious relics on earth. For centuries they were preserved, protected through wars, invasions, political revolutions, natural disasters. Empires rose, empires collapsed. Yet somehow, the relic survived. Eventually it found its permanent home inside the Cathedral of Naples, where millions of pilgrims still come every year, not only to honor a saint, but to witness something they believe cannot be explained. And here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. Because no one expects ancient blood to behave like living blood. In fact, science tells us exactly the opposite. Blood separates. It decomposes. Its cells break apart. Its chemistry changes forever, especially after hundreds of years. Yet witnesses continue describing something that seems to violate those expectations. A substance that appears completely solid suddenly begins to flow, almost as if time had forgotten it. But before we ask whether this can happen, we need to answer another question. How do we actually know what is inside those sealed glass ampoules? When opening them could destroy one of Christianity's most precious relics, that question will lead us into one of the most fascinating scientific investigations ever carried out on a religious mystery. And surprisingly, the scientists themselves discovered something they did not expect. For centuries, the Church has protected the relic with extraordinary care. The 2 glass ampoules have never been opened. And for one simple reason: if the seals were broken even for a scientific examination, the relic itself would lose much of its historical integrity. That single decision created a challenge unlike almost any other in science. How do you study something that you cannot touch? Researchers had to rely on non-invasive techniques, high-powered photography, microscopic observation, light analysis, historical records. Every new technology brought hope that the mystery would finally be solved. Yet every investigation seemed to end the same way, with more questions than answers. One of the first surprises came from the appearance of the relic itself. The larger ampoule is not always filled in the same way. Sometimes the dark substance seems to occupy more space, sometimes less. Sometimes tiny bubbles appear. Sometimes the surface looks smooth. At other times, uneven. For believers, these details became part of the miracle. For scientists, they became data. But data without certainty. Then came an important question. What if the material inside isn't actually liquid blood becoming solid, but a substance that simply behaves like one? This idea gave birth to one of the most discussed scientific hypotheses ever proposed, a phenomenon known as thixotropy. It sounds complicated, but the concept is surprisingly simple. Imagine a jar of honey left untouched for a long time, or certain types of paint, or even ketchup. At first they barely move, but after gentle motion, they suddenly become fluid. When left still again, they gradually thicken. Certain gels behave exactly this way. Rigid one moment, fluid the next, without changing temperature, without any chemical reaction. Could the relic contain a similar material? Years ago, a group of researchers suggested that a medieval artisan might have unknowingly or deliberately created a mixture capable of producing exactly this effect. They even demonstrated that substances available centuries ago could imitate the phenomenon in a laboratory. For a moment, many believed the mystery had finally been solved. Newspapers called it the end of the miracle. Skeptics celebrated. The debate seemed over. Except, it wasn't. Because reproducing a similar behavior inside a laboratory is not the same thing as explaining the relic itself. The proposed mixture was never compared directly with the contents of the ampoule. It couldn't be. The relic cannot be opened. No sample can be extracted. No laboratory can confirm what is actually inside. The hypothesis remained exactly that. A hypothesis. An interesting possibility. Not a proven conclusion. And then historians pointed out another problem. If someone had intentionally manufactured such a substance, who did it? When? Where? There is no historical document describing the creation of such a relic. No workshop, no written recipe, no contemporary accusation of fraud. Nothing. Even more intriguing, references to the unusual behavior of Saint Januarius's blood appear centuries before anyone understood the chemistry needed to imitate it. That doesn't prove a miracle, but it does make the forgery theory far more complicated than it first appears. Then another difficulty emerged. Witnesses across different centuries described the liquefaction happening under remarkably different conditions. Cold days, warm days, humid weather, dry weather, crowded ceremonies, private observations. If temperature alone explained everything, why wasn't the phenomenon predictable? If simple movement caused it, why didn't it happen every single time the relic was carried? And perhaps the strangest detail of all, there have been ceremonies in which everyone expected the blood to liquefy, and it simply didn't. If this were merely a physical reaction, why would it sometimes refuse? Scientists searched for patterns. Believers searched for meaning. Neither side found complete certainty. The truth is something both often hesitate to admit. Science is extraordinarily powerful. It explains eclipses, diseases, the age of stars, the structure of DNA, but science is also honest. When evidence is incomplete, it says, "We don't know." And in the case of Saint Januarius, those three words still matter, because despite centuries of observation, no scientific paper has definitively identified the substance inside the ampoules. No experiment has reproduced every detail of the historical phenomenon. No investigation has closed the case. But if the scientific mystery is fascinating, the historical mystery is even more unsettling, because the people of Naples don't remember the ceremonies when everything went as expected. They remember the times when the blood remains solid. Those are the years that entered history. Not because of what happened inside the cathedral, but because of what happened afterward. And that is where this story takes a darker turn. In the next part, we'll discover why generations of Neapolitans came to fear not the miracle itself, but the terrifying possibility that one day, it might not happen at all. If you ask the people of Naples what they remember most about the miracle of Saint Januarius, many won't begin by describing the blood. They'll tell you about the days it refused to change, because for centuries, the miracle was never seen as entertainment. It was a sign, a moment when heaven and earth seemed to meet. And when that moment didn't come, fear quietly spread through the city. Not panic, not hysteria, something deeper, an uneasy silence. Over time, stories began to accumulate. Not one, not two, generations of them. People noticed that some of the years in which the blood failed to liquefy were followed by events that would leave permanent scars on Naples. One of the most frequently cited examples came in 1527. Historical records tell us that during that period, the miracle reportedly did not occur. Soon afterward, Naples was devastated by plague, famine, and political turmoil. Thousands died. Entire communities were shattered. To believers, the sequence felt impossible to ignore. To historians, it was impossible to prove a connection. Yet the story survived, not because it was verified, but because it was remembered. Centuries later, another unsettling coincidence entered local tradition. In 1939, Europe stood on the edge of catastrophe. The Second World War was about to begin. Again, many people recalled uncertainty surrounding the miracle. Then came years of destruction unlike anything the continent had experienced before. After the war, another date became part of the city's collective memory. Southern Italy was struck by one of the most devastating earthquakes in its modern history. Nearly 3,000 people lost their lives. Countless others lost their homes. Once again, many connected the tragedy to reports surrounding the relic. Were these genuine warnings? Or was the human mind doing what it has always done, searching for meaning after unimaginable suffering? Psychologists have a name for this tendency. We naturally connect events, especially painful ones. When tragedy strikes, our minds desperately ask, why? Sometimes, there simply isn't an answer. Yet something remarkable remains. Generation after generation, the tradition endured. Not because every coincidence could be verified, but because the ritual itself became part of the identity of Naples. It united rich and poor, children and grandparents, believers and skeptics. For a few moments each year, an entire city held its breath together. Perhaps that by itself says something profound about human nature. We all long for reassurance that we are not alone, that history isn't random, that hope still has a place. But there is another side to this story that is rarely discussed. Many assume the miracle happens every single year. It doesn't. In fact, there have been occasions when the liquefaction occurred only partially. Sometimes it happened hours later, sometimes after prolonged prayer, sometimes not during the expected ceremony at all. If this were merely a carefully staged illusion, why would anyone allow it to fail? A magician never chooses for the trick to go wrong. A fraud depends on certainty. Yet the history of Saint Januarius contains uncertainty, unexpected delays, incomplete liquefactions, moments that satisfy neither believers nor skeptics. That inconsistency is one reason the debate has never ended. It frustrates both sides equally. Those searching for proof of the supernatural cannot predict it. Those searching for proof of deception cannot reproduce it. The mystery refuses to belong completely to either camp. And perhaps that's why it has survived for nearly 17 centuries. Not because everyone agrees, but because no one has managed to close the case. Today, modern cameras capture every ceremony in extraordinary detail. Millions can watch from around the world. Scientists observe, journalists report, pilgrims pray. The same small ampoule, the same ancient cathedral, the same silent anticipation. In an age where satellites orbit distant planets, where artificial intelligence writes essays, where diseases once considered fatal are cured, One tiny sealed container still manages to divide opinion. How is that possible? Maybe because this story was never really about blood. Maybe it's about something much larger. The boundary between what we know and what we are still willing to wonder. And that brings us to the question every viewer has been waiting for. After examining the history, the science, the skepticism, and the faith, what are we actually supposed to conclude? The answer may surprise you, because it doesn't begin with certainty. It begins with humility. After everything you've heard, the question remains exactly where it was at the beginning. What really happens inside those ancient glass ampoules? Is it a miracle? A rare physical phenomenon? A scientific puzzle we haven't solved yet? The most honest answer is surprisingly simple. No one knows with complete certainty. And perhaps that's the most remarkable part of this entire story. In a world where we often feel pressured to choose sides, to declare something either absolutely true or absolutely false, the mystery of Saint Januarius quietly resists both extremes. Science has not confirmed a miracle, but neither has it fully explained the phenomenon. Faith cannot place the mystery under a microscope, but neither can skepticism dismiss nearly 17 centuries of testimony with a single sentence. The relic remains, waiting, silent, unchanged, as it has through wars, earthquakes, plagues, the rise and fall of kingdoms, and the passing of generations who all believed they would be the ones to solve its secret. Perhaps every generation has asked the wrong question. Instead of asking, "How does the blood liquefy?" maybe we should ask, "Why has this mystery continued to speak to humanity for so long?" Because miracles, whether supernatural or simply deeply meaningful, have always done more than challenge our understanding. They challenge our hearts. For some, the blood of Saint Januarius is a sign that God still acts in history. For others, it is a fascinating historical phenomenon waiting for a future scientific explanation. And for many, it is something in between, a reminder that knowledge and wonder do not have to be enemies. History teaches us facts. Science teaches us methods. Faith teaches us hope. None of them asks us to stop searching, only to search honestly. That may be the greatest lesson hidden inside the Cathedral of Naples. Not that every mystery must immediately be solved, but that humility is the beginning of wisdom. The greatest discoveries in history often began with 3 simple words: "We don't know." Those words did not stop humanity from exploring the oceans. They did not stop us from reaching the moon. They did not stop scientists from decoding the human genome. On the contrary, they became the starting point of every great discovery. Perhaps one day technology will reveal exactly what rests inside those ancient ampoules. Or perhaps, some mysteries are valuable precisely because they remind us that not everything meaningful can be measured. For nearly 17 centuries, one small relic has invited millions of people to pause, to reflect, and to ask questions bigger than themselves. Very few objects in human history can claim the same. So whether you leave this story convinced, skeptical, or simply curious, one thing is undeniable: the mystery of Saint Januarius has survived not because everyone agrees about it, but because no one has ever stopped asking. And maybe that is the true miracle. Not that the blood sometimes becomes liquid, but that, after all this time, it still has the power to move the human heart. If this story made you look at history with new eyes, consider joining us on this journey through the world's greatest mysteries of faith. Here, we don't ask you what to believe. We invite you to discover, because behind every relic, every saint, and every ancient tradition, there may be a story you've never heard before. But if you think this is the Church's greatest unsolved mystery, there is another relic that has challenged scientists for more than a century. Unlike Saint Januarius's blood, this one bears the image of a man. No artist has ever convincingly reproduced it. No scientific explanation has settled the debate. Some call it history's most extraordinary forgery. Others believe it is the silent witness of the resurrection itself. In our next episode, we'll investigate one of the most studied objects on Earth, the mysterious Shroud of Turin, and once you see the evidence, you may never look at it the same way again.